Now, one of the important parts of Illustrator over Photoshop, it's its ability to do things very precisely and to be able to repeat the actions very efficiently. I'm going to zoom in right here and look at this little area right here, that logo right there. And the letters, they have the same kind of an effect. I'm going to show you how this was created using Illustrator. You see that I've created a series of guides for myself. And to get guides, you simply display the rulers and you just pull out a guide right from the ruler like that. We don't need that one. This is my center point right here, where I'm going to rotate that shape from that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag from this corner here. I'm going to drag the crosshairs down to that center point right there, so that that's now my 0 mark. See it? And then I've made some other guides that are going to be the actual shape. And I'm basically concentrating on one side of the shape. As you'll see, I can easily go in there and create the other side. That's the beauty here, is that I can go in there and create multiple shapes and do things to them and connect them in ways that I can't do in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is, using my guide here, this is where one shape is going to be. This is where it's going to be rotated from. So let's go in here and start to create the one side. So I'm going to start right here at this corner. I'm going to click and drag, and it's snapping to the guide right there. I'm going to click and drag this little handle that comes out like that. And then I'm going to come right off to the side here and click and drag, and it's going to be pointing down towards this point here. Just before it, I'm going to click and drag right here and have it follow that same angle, and then come over here and click and drag like that. And I'm going to hold down my shift key to constrain it to straight across. There's one side of this shape. Now I can easily modify it after the fact. So we'll go in there and we'll just give it a little thing. And just so we can see it, we'll give it a black outline. So there, now we can see it. So it's black. I can control the size. 1 point is good. All right, so we have that. So there's my shape. That's what it looks like. And I can get a little more precise. Let's get in there and get really precise on this. So I see that I'm a little off from the thing here. So let's just make that snap right there, right to that point. And let's snap this one right to this edge, right there. That's good. That's looking good. And this little curve here is because this guy's not following that line. So let's just move this so that it is, in fact, following a straight line to the one below. There we go. So now we'll pull back. So now I have that one side of my triangle. I'm going to select all the points. And see how I selected my guides? Let's lock those guides. Let's go over here into our view. And we come down here to the guides and say, lock the guides. I don't want to affect them at all, because if I can select them and move them, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. So when I did that selection, I noticed those became dark. That meant they were selected. So in order to not affect them, I locked them. So now my object is selected. So now I can go over here and I'm going to choose my reflect tool. I'm going to place the cursor right here at the dead center. And I'm going to hold down my option key, which allows me to then, when I click, it brings up this little control window. And I'm going to say on a vertical axis, which is kind of giving you a little icon here, I want to make a copy. See how I made a copy on the other side? I don't have to worry about matching it. I just made a copy of it, and it's a perfect duplicate. I'm now going to taking the hollow tool, which is your direct selection tool, which allows me to go in there and select individual points. Let's just draw a little marquee that selects the two outer points there. And I'm going to go in there and join them. Now you can do it through here, say path and join, and it automatically joined them. See, there's a little feature that doesn't exist in Photoshop. I'll select the two at the bottom and join those as well. Now I'm going to pull up here. In fact, I'll pull back just a little bit so we can see what's going to happen next. So now I'm going to select all the points, and I switch to this particular tool here, which allows me to go in there and select all the points. Now with all the points selected, I'm going to switch to my rotation tool, which I'm going to place right here at the center of the rotation, that little corner. And again, I'm going to hold down my option key and click Alt on a PC. And I'm going to rotate this. I pretty much know what I want, but you could do it visually if you want. But I know that 60 degrees is what I want. I know that's what I want because I just tested it out, which is why it remembers 60 degrees. So it's going to rotate this from that point 60 degrees. And I want it to make a copy because I want to make a second one. Copy. So there's that second one. So now that I have that, I can go in there and say, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. It created all the ones before. And what I was doing is I was just hitting Command D, which is repeat the last action. So there, now that I have all those paths, I'm going to do a select all. And I'm going to just copy them. Then I'm going to switch to Photoshop. And here in Photoshop, we can see what the logo looks like. So let's just say that we have a little reference of our logo there, a photograph of it or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. It knows the size of what's in the clipboard. So I'm just going to go in here and let's reset this. We'll say we wanted 500 pixels by 500 pixels. And I'll click OK. And it creates this file. So now I'm going to do a paste. I want to paste it as paths, not as pixels, because I didn't assign any color in Illustrator. I'm going to do all that here in Photoshop. So I'm bringing it as a path. There's the paths, which I'm now going to save. They come in as a work path, so I'm going to save them so I have them for future use. So now I'm going to create a layer, which is where I'm going to put my logo. So we'll call it logo. Now I'm going to pick the colors that I want for that logo. So I'm going to go to the original art here, and I'm going to say I want that red right there going to that white in the background. So I'm going to Option, click on the white, which you can see it just picked it up right there. Option picks up the background color with the color picker. And that's Alt on a PC. So now I switch back to that other file. There it is. So now that I know I have my colors, I'm going to go in there and take that path and say, make it a selection. And with it as a selection, I'm going to take my gradient tool, set the linear gradient going from that red to that white, and I'm just going to click down here and create a little gradient that goes right up there like that. Now looking at that other image, I see that there is a white outline and a black outline. So now I'm going to create those. So I go back over to my art, and I have that. Let's deselect it at this point. I still have my path. So in a separate layer, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create the white line. And let's spell that right. There we go. So I'm going to choose white. And I'm going to get a paintbrush. I'll make sure it's solid, hard edge. I'm going to make it a little thicker there. I'm going to make it bigger. Now keep in mind that the width is going to be half the diameter of my brush. So when I'm looking at it up here, I see how wide that's going to be. Make it a little bigger. We'll go in there and just make it, let's say 21. And that looks fairly big. In fact, it might be too big. So let's make it an 18. So that's a good size right there. There we go. So in this white line, I'm going to take that path and stroke it. So now I'm going to get the black and I'm going to make this much thinner now. I'm going to go down and make it 8. And I can see the thickness of it right there. So in another layer, which we'll call the black line, I will go ahead and stroke it. I got the brush, I got the color, and I'll take the path and stroke it. So now I've got all these little shapes in there. I go back to my layers panel, and I'm going to lock these two inside. I'm going to clip them right inside of the main logo. So there's the white, and there's the black. And there we see that now we have the basic shape that becomes the logo that we see up in there.